did you want to punch Stuttering John?
No, I wasn't going to punch him. I was never going to punch him with a closed fist. I always knew it would be a smack. So Artie met me at this restaurant with this guy. He got his stuff. We both went to his room. We had a little fun. I'm not going to lie. I was involved as well. And then I swear to God, everything in his life changed the next day.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch.
The Stuttering John fight happened after that. And Howard was upset because he liked me, and the word was I was going to get Jackie Martling's chair, which I'm glad it didn't work out because it's hard for anybody to believe this, but I didn't want that job. I didn't think of it as a job. I thought it was a fun thing to do. I would have changed my life. I would have had to go to bed at 9:30 and get up at 4:30. I was out till 4:30. My life was completely different. But after I smacked Stuttering John, it was out of Howard's hands. The people above him said he can't be in the studio. So I wasn't allowed back. But I subsequently called the Stern Show 2 or 3 times after that. And I still talk to Howard. We still email, and I haven't bumped into him in a while. But it's all good. It was a great moment on his show. I provided a few of those for him, and he's very grateful about it. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of done. I tell people this all the time because I don't like the new Howard show. I love him, but the new show ain't for me. But I said to people, those of you who are mad that Howard's not Howard, how long do you think a grown man wants to throw baloney at a stripper's ass at 7:45 in the morning? It gets really tiresome. And even when I was on the show and that would happen, during the commercial break, he turned to us and just rolled his eyes like, Jesus. So this is 20 years ago. So he earned his rest, or at least he earned the fact that he can change course in his career.
I want to say you said you didn't want to get up early and you like to be out late. And then, well, the guy who took that job did stay up late. But I'm curious, like, why wouldn't you have wanted that gig, though? Because it felt like they really were grooming. You were on a lot. I remember hearing you along with Artie.
I was on.
Ron Zimmerman, I think, was a guy who kind of came on a bunch.
They had me on. Yeah, there was a few of us, but I was on for a month. I was plugging my book, plugging my talk show. They gave me a month. And everybody said, in retrospect, you were like, Howard really liked you. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel tried out, like major people that you think about now are gigantic. But back then, Jimmy was a comic. But I didn't think it was a job. I thought it was a great thing to do. I would leave the strip club at 4, wash my face, get a cup of coffee, and go to work. But that wasn't my life. Every night I was out till 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. If I had to change my life just to be on radio, then Howard wouldn't have got the guy he wanted. He would tell me, don't go home. Stay out all night and come right to the studio and tell me stories. So I don't know how long I could have done that. I mean, we all know what happened to Artie Lange. I'm a guy that's had problems with those things too in life, not to Artie's extent. But when you hang around that late in that type of atmosphere with those type of people, bad things are going to happen. You're going to get hooked on stuff. And that's exactly what happened to Artie. But I mean, he gave Howard 10 awesome years. The show just blew up with Artie there.
Oh, it's my favorite time period. I love the Jackie era. I feel like there's 2 eras. Well, 3 eras, really. Jackie, Artie, and then whatever's happening now.
Artie was better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your deal?
Artie's the best, though. Artie brought that show.
I was going to ask you about Artie.
Deal with Artie?
Yeah, just how you did it. I know you did this podcast a few years back, but I mean, do you talk to him? Have you heard from him?
God, it was a while ago. Now I have it. I was with him the night that Crashing premiered on HBO. What is that? 4 years ago? Whenever it was. 5? I don't even know. But he was straight, he told me. But that night, he called me and said he wanted to get high. And I thought he was lying. I said, come on. He said, no, man, I really need something. Can you find anything? And I hadn't been looking for that stuff for many years. And I said, I don't know who to call. I'll call somebody. and it took hours, but I found somebody. So Artie met me at this restaurant with this guy. He got his stuff. We both went to his room. We had a little fun. I'm not going to lie. I was involved as well. And then I swear to God, everything in his life changed the next day. Like every bad thing happened to him from that night on. Now, I don't know what he was doing before we hung out. I tend to think he was doing plenty, but he presented to me, no, man, I'm straight, but I just can't go to San Francisco with the HBO executives. It's too much on my head. I mean, junkies say stuff like that. And I was never around Artie on a daily basis to know any better. But I'll tell you, everything that happened, the getting caught, going to jail, you know, it all started to happen from that night. And you think about a guy that's got a best-selling book on the shelves. He's got this show crashing on HBO. He's got a podcast that was making a ton of money. And he's on stages everywhere in the country. He's making millions. And then it all goes. And I don't know where he is now. No idea. He ain't getting high. He's not in jail, or else we'd all know. So he must have made an obvious, thank God, a really big change in his life to rectify things. But no one's saying where he is.
Yeah. No, that's what's crazy. No one's talking. He just did something with Nick DiPaolo, I guess, and it was very weird. It was quick.
I heard that.
It was quick.
I heard that, but they wouldn't say where you are. It was weird. Yeah.
But we were talking just how those eras, and I think I may have cut you off, but man, it was, I mean, I try to remember why it was so funny, and I think it was when Artie first started, he was so quick. And the fact that, and the more I've talked to a bunch of the guys during this kind of series, it's, you know, he was one of the only guys that had an open mic. You know, Howard didn't let Fred have an open mic, but he's like, Artie, mic's open.
Open mic. And that's one of the things I loved when I did the show. Howard always left my mic on as well. You know, the way the Stern show is set up, you got Fred, you got Benji Bronk, and I was in the middle, or Artie would be in the middle. Fred and Benji write jokes constantly. And there's a little bin in front of where I sit, and you throw these jokes on big pieces of paper in the bin, and then Howard can read the jokes with a camera that's pointed down right onto his computer screen. So people don't know, but 80% of the jokes that Howard says are written by Benji or Fred. I didn't write them. I just said them because he left my mic open. Same thing goes for Artie. You cannot write as quick as Fred and Benji. It's impossible. They are so quick. So I just spoke. But yeah, Artie was an open mic guy. And I don't think there was a better time there. And the thing about Artie, the really sad thing is, I think part of the reason why he went over the edge, especially after losing the Stern job, you know, Artie's dad died when he was young. He never got over that. And then Stern kind of abandons him, never talked to him again. So I think it's a question of Artie dealing with the two most important men in his life just leaving, you know? And maybe by now he's had a conversation with Howard. I know Howard said things in the press that must have made him feel a little better, because Howard didn't know how to treat it. He felt a little guilty. He had told me once, I felt guilty that maybe we were letting this guy get all effed up on air. You know, it was jokes, it was fun, but in retrospect, I didn't know what I was doing, letting him do that without insisting on him getting help. So Howard's got a little guilt, and when you're a Jewish guy from Long Island, it's a lot of guilt. So maybe they've spoken since then, but I know that's got to hurt Artie, and that's definitely one of the reasons why he spiraled out of control, I think.
It was hard to watch, too, because there's a lot of bits where Fred was like, I don't know, he just seems out of it. And Howard's like, oh, he's just tired, you know? And that went on. After a while, it got kind of annoying, but still funny, you know, the fact that it became a story for them.
Guy was passed out. I mean, passed out in the chair. And then, you know, Howard's not an addict, so he doesn't know the behavior. Fred's not an addict. Robin's not. There weren't any people in the studio to understand those highs and lows of anger. That's an addict behavior. The lies about I couldn't come in, I went to the doctor, I had a cough, I had a urinary tract infection. Those are all lies that junkies tell because they want to get high. If you're late, it's because your dealer wasn't there on time. You know, if anybody in that studio had a problem with drugs, they would have picked up on Artie early. But by the time they figured it out, it was too late.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was great radio for the audience. And
it was great.
You had I think it'd be awesome if I had a classic moment on the show. I will never forget your moment. Were you really, I mean, and that, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but were you really ready to go out there to punch? I mean, did you want to punch Stuttering John, or were you like, I'm saying that on the radio, but I'm just going to go confront him?
No, I wasn't going to punch him. I was never going to punch him with a closed fist. I always knew it would be a smack. And I still get this to this day. People say you japped him and you punched him. No, I didn't punch him. I'm a righty. I smacked him with my left hand around Gary's head, and Gary's teeth took most of the blow on my forearm.
He screams too. He goes, ah! Now I'm remembering it.
He screams out.
And Casey is standing there watching, and Ronnie, no one's doing it.
Well, you know, and you know, the thing is, I said, I'm going to go out there and smack him. And once I got to the hallway, I was like, in the hallway, I thought, well, maybe I'll just talk to him. We'll hug it out or something. But then all the cameras were lit. And I said, oh, they want something. They want some TV. Okay, let's have some TV. So when I smacked him, all hell broke loose. Now, John and I would have fought. He's a big dude. He was coming at me. And Casey grabbed me, and I fell out of my sandals. So if you see in the hallway, I'm falling out of my sandals. I don't know if I fell or almost fell, but if Casey wasn't there, Gary would not have been able to hold John back. We would have had a fight in the hallway for real.
That sucks.
No doubt.
That would have been great because you got let go for that.
It would have been great.
But I think the fact that was on video, and then you had to come in and talk about it, and then he used the word jap, and everyone's asking, what's jap mean? We've never even heard of that. And Stuttering John's like, oh, he japped me, he japped me like a jap would do.
It wasn't a jap. Listen, when you warn a guy on a radio show that big and tell him one more call, I'm going to come in there and smack you, that's not a jap. That's a complete fair warning. And as soon as he did it, he knew I was coming in, but he thought we'd just laugh it off. John and I are fine. And for years, I've done his podcast. I actually let him smack me back on air during his show a couple of years back. He didn't want to do it, but he finally did it. And he gave me a good shot. So we're even.
So how does that day end for you? Does Tom come and tell you? Does Howard? Who tells you, all right, how do you know you're done?
Well, Tom came in the studio and said, I can't have you here. We cannot have any violence. And this was way back in 2000 when workplace violence was not really talked about. Like, I don't know, it was kind of a new thing, I guess, for cavemen like me. But when I was with a girl, I went back to the hotel room, my shirt was ripped, and I said, I got to go back home to my sisters on Long Island because I wasn't living in New York anymore. So we split, and then Howard called me as soon as I got to my sister's house. He was like, hey, man, I feel so bad. It was fucking great. That was awesome. I just, I can't do anything about it because you put your hands on him. I said, don't worry, bro. It's fine. I did what I did. It's all good. It was solved in a couple of days. I just knew I wasn't going back, and I'd spent a month there. And, I got paid. Back then, they paid me $500 a week to show up. Was it $500 a week? It might have been more. It was good money to show up every day. It was a really fun gig. I never thought about it being a career. I just never thought that way. But when I read the papers the next day, every headline said, Benza ruins radio career. And I go, oh, people thought that might have been my next move. I didn't think that way. Might have been probably would have been the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But if I had done it, what happens to Artie Lange? The show would not have been as good with me there over Artie. No way.
Yeah,
no way.
I hate to say it, but yes, that's true. But I will say, it would be awesome to be banned from...
True, I know.
You were banned from the greatest radio show of all time. And I don't know how many people they banned. I think maybe you're the only guy. Maybe High Pitch Eric, but...
Maybe you're right. I mean, I did about 100 appearances, but I was banned from the building. And then I called 2 more times a couple of years later. But it's not my show anymore. I don't follow it. I like his celebrity interviews, but I don't follow the day-to-day nonsense. I don't know all these guys and the dramas they have. It's not my thing. Look, when that show was on in New York City and you walked down the street and people knew you, they heard you on the radio, they saw you walking down the street, they would yell your name out. It was a wonderful feeling. I don't think that'll ever happen again. It won't happen again with radio. But when you did Howard Stern, everybody in this city, cabbies, truck drivers, the cops. I've been stopped by cops in L.A., and they let me go because of Howard. Tell Howard I said hi. I mean, cops, firemen, construction guys, cabbies, they love Stern. Love him to this day.
It's a great show, and yeah, I mean, he's obviously older and he can't do what he did now what he was doing back then, but I'm curious. I don't even know if you're the right person to ask this, but I always wondered this, and I wrote this down today because I'm like, maybe AJ knows. Mike Walker would come on every Friday with that game, the silly game. It seemed like nonsense to me, and I never understood. I assumed he was being paid, one, obviously, and then two, Howard just didn't want to be in the Inquirer. Is that what he's basically like? Hey, Mike, just stay the fuck away from me. If I'll have you on the show every week and promote you.
Well, Mike would call in. It was a weird thing. I was on a few of those over the years. He'd call in. I mean, he'd been in the studio before, but when I was there, he'd call in and give the 4 things that happened. 3 of them are not true. 1 is true. Pick out the true one. And I don't know why Howard liked it. I mean, I know Howard liked gossip because that's how he began to like me and my column. I don't know. It was back then, gossip, National Enquirer gossip was big because the OJ trial had happened, the Menendez brothers, Tanya Harding, Joey Buttafuoco. There was so many scandals that were going on that I wrote about. It was a tabloid wartime, so everything was really blown out of proportion. So when Mike showed up to give those tidbits, and the Enquirer was really big because they led the way during the OJ trial. They broke at least 50 stories during the OJ trial. People make fun of the Enquirer all the time, but they led the majority of newspapers in America with their own coverage. So got a knowledge out of that. And Howard liked it because people were reading the magazine. And not for nothing, we could all make fun of Mike Walker when he wasn't in the studio. We put the phone on mute and talk shit about him. And Howard liked that part of it too. And I think there was the one episode where Mike Walker farted while he was reading one of his gossip items, and the big thing was, is that a fart or not? And Mike had no idea we were talking about that. I mean, no idea. As he's telling his gossip item, we're screaming, laughing because we're convinced he farted during one of the reads. And then we brought it up, and he swore it wasn't a fart. Just stupid shit like that. But I would leave that place 9:45, 10 a.m. if you went late. My stomach would just hurt. You know, you'd pace yourself to get through the show. But once the news started with Robin and that music began, then it was like the best 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the day. It was so much fun because we all would rag on the items, rag on Robin. Everybody got pounded during that half hour. Yeah, I missed that more than anything about his show. The news was phenomenal.
The Mike Walker thing, yeah. The reason I asked is because he didn't seem like he fit. They made fun of him every time. And then Richard and Sal started coming in, and they started recording his voice and making clips. So now all I hear when you were talking, all I hear is Kevin Federline. Kevin Federline. Yeah, he was a weird dude. I did so many shows with Mike, during the OJ stuff, the Michael Jackson stuff. We did Geraldo Rivera's show every Friday for like 3 years. Geraldo's show was huge. And, afternoon show getting 8 million people, like never happened again. And Mike would show up in this black motorcycle jacket with fringe hanging off his arms. And he had the Japanese wife. Mike was a weird dude, but I liked him a lot, but definitely a weird dude. And I'm curious too, I'm sure Howard wasn't really going out a lot while you were doing that job with Newsday, right? Did you ever see Howard doing it? Because he did get divorced. And then I thought, hey, he's bringing AJ in too, so no one will know who he's dating.
Well, that's a good point because I knew a lot of people he had been shacking up with, put it that way. And I got word to him a couple of times with some Playboy playmates I know he was with, and that just boggled his mind. The fact that he knew that he had sex with this playmate, Carrie Stevens, who I know for years. He just couldn't believe I knew that. And I threw another few names out there, and he was like, oh my God. But, so many years of Howard and Allison, of him being that husband who stayed home and wanted to get laid. Once before they were apart, he was living alone on Central Park. And during that era, that's when the pretty girls would start meeting him, and he would find them, and there'd be dates set up, very quietly that supposedly no one knew, but I would always know because girls talk, and I know friends of friends, and I would get the word to him, and I protected him. I never reported who he was fucking around with. So he always appreciated that.
Yeah, I remember those days on the show. Ralph would call in, and he knew who it was, and it would just piss you off because you're like, just let's hear some names. Let's stop this bullshit where we don't. Angie Everhart was the only one who came in.
He was too nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, Angie was a big name that people knew, but Robin Givens, Amy Lynn Baxter, who he was always hot for. Oh God, I forget now. But Howard had a good handful of them, and I'm sure plenty more I don't know. He had a good time, and it was like, look, it was a rebirth of his because he never thought he'd have that life ever. If you remember when he was married to Allison, how many times you could hear him whenever a pretty girl sat in his lap or sat across. He was like dying to be with them. And then to have that freedom, he didn't want the public to know. He wanted to still act like that guy who was frustrated sexually. But he got over that. He had a good time for a while before his new wife.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll ask because what do you think happened with that marriage? It was you get married young and then.
Yeah, they met young, a typical Long Island couple, Queens couple, whatever. It's very difficult to keep that going. Look, they had 3 kids. His career becomes a rocket ship. It's so hard to be Allison or to be any woman that waits home while your man just becomes a rock star. I mean, it changes the whole dynamic of who you were as a couple. So it's unfortunate, but that happens in marriages. It happens in life when one person goes to the moon and the other person can't join him. But after he did all that, he had enough and he wanted to calm down. The last few shows I did, Beth was in studio. And I saw her come one of the first days she visited because, yeah, my girlfriend's coming. And she walked in, very beautiful, very sweet, stayed in the corner, kept quiet. And I said, she's okay with all this. She goes, yeah, she's not giving me any crap. She's okay with it. So feather in her cap, but I'm sure she knew what she was about to land. I mean, I don't know how much what is he making now? 100 million a year, whatever it is, 110, I don't know. But, they have a great life. The only thing that's weird is we always thought, me and people who loved Howard, the old Howard, we always thought he was the guy who always, like, if you take it back to high school, he felt like the guy that was complaining about the cool kids in school. Like, he was that guy that in the lunchroom wasn't able to sit with the cool kids, but he made fun of. And then he gets famous, and now he's with all these famous people, Aniston and Oliver Bloom and Katy Perry. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You always wanted to be at that table. You're not really who we are. You wanted to be there. And it happens to some people too. If you spend years ragging on people, they let you in their homes and their pools and on vacations, they disarm you. And that's what happened to Howard. A combination of getting older and also these people. Look, it happened to me when I got to LA. I would rag about movie stars in my column constantly. Suddenly, I come out to LA with a TV show, and they all like me. And they all want me over and have a date with so-and-so, and let's go to this pool. We're going to go to Malibu. And you go, oh, maybe I should make fun of these people. This is kind of fun. So that's what happened to him. He bought into it, and why not? They're all in the same tax bracket. Me, I knew I don't belong with these people. But Howard does. I mean, he's worked hard enough that he belongs in that bracket. And if he likes to hang out with Jimmy Kimmel's a great guy. Oliver Bloom, you couldn't pay me to hang out with him. But Jimmy Kimmel, I understand.
The one guest that he had on where I'm like, oh, Jesus, like this is that jump the shark. Because I listened. I was a fan for a long time. When he had Ellen DeGeneres on, I said, oh, that's it. I mean,
yeah,
because he, for 15 years, made fun of her pantsuits and hated her act and called her to Bob Newhart. Just ripped her for shreds. And then he's like kissing her ass, and I'm like, you can't do that. That's where I draw the line. I understand making up with people. Like if Kathy Lee Gifford came in, I think it'd be great because he beat the shit out of her. Or Rosie O'Donnell, but Rosie, at least you can see that Rosie can kind of take a punch and she's good with So I get that, but the Ellen DeGeneres one was my big one that I didn't like.
Yeah, it bothered me because I know for a fact he hates her dancing. I know I was there for those talks, and for him to turn around and say he likes her dancing, that was bothersome. But I know the inner workings of some of these relationships. Like, Howard was so big that a lot of these people have the same agents or managers, or their managers know each other and their agencies. They tend to start to work something out because they don't want their client to get beat that bad. That's what happened with Rosie. Howard pounded her. And then one of his crazy psycho Stern fans, Whack Pack fans, decided to start harassing Rosie, got her number, was sending letters saying your kids are going to be kidnapped and really bad shit. And that's when Rosie's people reached out to Howard's people and said, we can't have this. And Rosie called Howard and said, it's about my kids now. This has to end. So being the fact that he's got a good heart, he ended it. I think something like that happened with Ellen, too. I think her people appealed to his people saying, we can't. Ellen's on a rocket ship to stardom. We can't have this. And, I don't know how long people can be the pirate, how long Howard wanted to be the tough guy or the mean guy. Eventually, it gets played out. And like I said, once you visit Southern California and you buy real estate there and your neighbors are George Clooney or whomever, it blunts your knife. You don't want to be as mean. It's very disarming. And that's what happened to him times 100.
Yeah. And everyone knows it. We have a couple minutes left. I thank you for your time. I'm going to just kind of wrap up with where we started. Trump, I mean, if he doesn't pull this thing out, does he come back in 2024? And do we have to have another one of these crazy elections?
Well, I love the 4 years he was in. I don't think he wants to subject himself to that again in 2024. I think he still has a chance to come and win this race. However, I think what he did was enough that Trumpism is now in the GOP. Trumpism is now among the Republicans, and I think a lot of people are coming up behind him. They're going to carry that flavor into their politics. And as long as they have Trump on the outside, whether he starts a network where he can talk shit every day or have people talk shit every day and go against Fox News, or big politicians enlist Trump to come in and do a rally now and then, it's kind of best of both worlds. If you're a Trump fan and if you're a conservative, you still get him. And you got these young guys coming up who are going to spout Trumpism. Because for 4 years, whether you liked him or not, America got a taste of what it's like to be put first and not to have refugees put first or everybody else that Obama thought was more important than us. So for that, in that respect, I'm happy. If he doesn't come back and win this thing and Biden takes it, I think we're all going to see how unfortunate it is that Biden's running the show, because he's going to be awful. And with Trump having possibly a network to talk shit to Biden every day, oh my God, it's going to be a shit show for the next 4 years anyhow. It's going to be great.
Did you get the sense that Melania wanted to be a first lady? And I would call her the most invisible first lady, although with him being out there every day, what could she possibly do to you would never know she was there. But do you think she wanted to be part of this at all? And do you think, I get the sense it seems like a cold marriage.
Yeah, it's an arrangement. He's had his dalliances. I know about several that Melania knew about. It's one of those don't embarrass me at home kind of things. I don't think she ever for a second thought one day she'd be first lady. But once this thing started picking up steam, I think she did fine. I think she was the most beautiful first lady we ever had, although you'd never know it. There's no magazine covers of her. They treated her like shit. I think she held herself fine. I would have changed her "Be Best" slogan if I was working with her. I would have changed her first speech that echoed Michelle Obama's. Other than that, all she's got to do is be beautiful, be classy, and support the president. She did that well. But I'm sure no woman wants that position outside of Nancy Reagan, who probably wanted that when she was 15. I don't think any woman aspires to it, but she did a decent job. I mean, really decent job considering that no other president and first lady got hammered every day for 4 years like they did.
She took the most unnecessary bullshit out of anyone, like wearing fucking heels off a plane. It was like, leave her alone.
So stupid.
Leave
So
her
stupid.
alone. I know it's because she's attached to him, but
so dumb.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's guilt by association, which is not fair.
We're talking politics. Did you ever think you'd be talking so much politics 10 years ago? If you're doing politics as a bitch, as we said.
No, I never did. I worked in newsrooms during Bush and during Clinton. I voted for Clinton. I voted for Bush. I voted for Obama the first time. We never talked about who do you like? It just wasn't a thing. Now you cannot talk about who you like. Now I don't care. I'm very open about who I like. But no, I never thought this. And when I started the podcast, I was doing politics in the middle of my gossip stuff. And I had some fans tell me, keep that going. Other fans said, no, I just want Hollywood. So then I said, well, I'm going to do a separate show because it's warranted. There's so much stuff going on. And since I know the president and know some things and I can break stories, I wanted to be another voice in the circus of voices to have some fun. And even now with Biden winning, let's say, I'll have no shortage of material. There's plenty of stuff to go on with him there. You know, it's going to be a crazy 4 years either way.
Yeah, and I think
another crazy 4 years.
I guess it's good that people are engaged, but it'd be better, I think, if we went back about 10 years where a lot of people didn't give a shit. That's where I would like to go. And they always have to put it out on Facebook, and they give their opinions everywhere. Let's just everyone leave your opinions at home.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. 100%. I've had it with that. I've had it with Tony. People knowing exactly what the president has to do, should have done. It's till you're there, you have no idea what these guys go through. So I'm overhearing politics constantly. I'm so sick of it. You know, it's destroyed marriages. It's destroyed people's homes. I mean, there are plenty of marriages who are split down the middle. Not healthy. So I don't think we're going to get any better off with Biden. I think it's still going to be crazy. But Trump definitely is that character who comes on the scene and grates on people. He's very polarizing. I knew that because I used to hate him. So I totally understand that. I'm not surprised by it. But I don't know. But I always knew what he could do to you mentally if you went up against him man to man. He is a killer. He doesn't stop. You know, he really doesn't. So he's not going to stop even if he loses. He's not.
Yeah. No, it was funny, too, because in 2016, I was like, let's see him win and shake it up a little bit, and I didn't know it'd be. I thought it would get this shook. Well, I think if COVID doesn't happen, I really think he gets another term. I really do.
He wins hands down. Oh yeah, it was COVID certainly. Look, I don't think he thought he would win. I think he thought he would go in there, improve his position, improve his Q rating, take that to television. Who knows what he wants to do? Suddenly he sees an opportunity to win, and he's such a competitor, he goes for it. But I don't think when he first started, he thought he had a shot to win it. I really don't.
Yeah. Well,
I think he was shocked that night.
It was entertaining, and this has been entertaining. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you don't do a lot of these, so I really do appreciate you coming on. And your podcast is Fame as a Bitch. I listened to it. A few of them today. They're quick. They're about 30 minutes, quick car ride. You have another one, Politics as a Bitch. Anything else you want to tell us about these? I listened today, and I was laughing and enjoying myself. I'll be listening more and more as I continue our friendship here.
No, thank you. You know, it's quick. I believe in a 30 to 40 minute model. I'm a Joe Rogan fan, but I can't go 2.5 hours of my day listening to his show. It takes me 4 days to finish Joe Rogan shows, the ones I listen to. If you're into what I say, you pay $5 a month, and if you follow me every day, it's like you watch the same show. I bring things up that happened 2 days ago, 3 days ago, yesterday. So if you follow me, most people agree, like, once you're in the show and you're listening, you want to keep listening. Because and I have a lot of personal stories that other people I have a Forrest Gump type life where anything that happens, I can connect myself to people in a very strange way.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's still going.
If people want to read, you have a few books out there on Amazon. Fame Ain't It a Bitch, 74 and Sunny. The podcast is what you're doing now, though. So if people, I found it right on the podcast app on my iPhone. Is there any other places we should know how to find these?
Yeah, it's easy to find. No, I think, look, I mean, unfortunately, fortunately, the Patreon is going well, but that's patreon.com/fameisabitch or /politicsisabitch. I'm starting High Stakes Poker again, the TV show I did back in the mid-2000s that was on Game Show Network, which is great for poker fans. We're taping that next month. But right now, it's all about the podcast. That's my bread and butter. That's what I do every day, and that's all I care about.
Well, hopefully Phil Hellmuth is a part of that. I'll get back and watch again because I was a huge fan.
Yeah, I think he will be.
Well, thank you, AJ. We thank AJ for joining here on Here's the Pitch, and it's sponsored by Masses Restaurants. 5 locations, stlmasses.com. We thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.